Hi everyone, myself Dr. Pradeep Reddy, Associate Professor, Sage University, Bhopal. In this video, I would like to bring you about the nationalization of banks. When nationalization of banks has happened. So many of the viewers are asking about, we want to know about when the nationalization of banks was happened and just a history about it we want to know about. In this video, it has been given in a brief. So let me tell you about. So in 1947, partition of Hindustan and Pakistan hurt the banking sector as well. So the average capital of the failed banks between 1947 and 1955 was significantly lower the average size of paid up capital of reporting banks in the industry. So in 1948, worst years for the relatively larger banks and 45 institutions were closed down due to the formation of country, and bank deposits mobilized by commercial banks were largely lent out to security based borrowers in trade and industry. And after independence, the government of India adopted planned economic development for the country, and accordingly 5-year plans came into existence since 1951. In 1950 to 51, there were 430 commercial banks, and the government of India had some social objectives of planning. And these commercial banks failed helping the government in attaining these objectives. So banks were controlled by businesses, houses, failed to cater need of cottage industry, poor people, and others. So in this, we can know that in from 1950 to 51, there were 430 commercial banks, and the government has some special objectives. In that planning, the commercial banks failed helping the government in attaining the objectives. So banks were controlled by business houses, failed to cater the need of the small cottage industries and the poor people, and the government decided to nationalize 14 major banks with the deposit base of rupees 50 crore were nationalized. And after that, the first bank to be nationalized was Reserve Bank of India on 1st January 1949, and nationalization of Imperial Bank of India and its conversion into State Bank of India in July 1955 and June 1956, and conversion of 8 major states associates banks into subsidiary banks in 1955 has happened, and nationalization of 14 other Indian scheduled banks in July 1969, and nationalization of 6 more banks in April 1980 has happened. And at present, there are 26 scheduled banks in public sector. Out of these, 19 banks were nationalized. And next, if you see here, you can see the Times of India's message given in those days, saying by the Indira Gandhi in those days. The 14 top banks are nationalized in that period. You can have a view of it. And next is have a look at the 14 commercial banks which were nationalized in those years, like the Central Bank of India, which was nationalized on 1911, and Bank of India on 1906, Punjab National Bank and Bank of India, UCO Bank, Canara Bank, United Bank of India, Union Bank of India, Dena Bank, Allahabad Bank, Bank of Maharashtra, Indian Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, and Syndicate Bank. So these are the 14 commercial banks which were nationalized in 1969, and 6 more commercial banks has been nationalized, and encouraged by the success of the first spell of the nationalization of banks. 6 more banks in the private sector having deposits more than rupees 200 crores were nationalized on 15th April 1980. So the 6 commercial banks are the Punjab and Sindh Bank, Andhra Bank, New Bank of India, Vijaya Bank, Oriental Bank of Commerce, and Corporation Bank. And next is the SBI and its associates. So who are the SBI and its associates? In Those years are, according to the government orders issued on February 22nd, 2017 under the State Bank of India Act 1955, the entire undertaking of State Bank of Bikaner and Jaipur, State Bank of Mysore, State Bank of Travancore, State Bank of Patiala, State Bank of Hyderabad will stand transferred to and vested in State Bank of India from April 1st, 2017. So these five associates of SBI has been converted into SBI. And also, the Bharatiya Mahila Bank has merged with the country's largest lender, State Bank, on April 1st, 2017 to ensure greater banking outreach to women, and Punjab National Bank acquired New Bank of India in 1993. And if you see the justification of the nationalized banks of commercial banks took place with an aim to achieve following major objectives. So one is social welfare, and the second one is the controlling private monopolies. So why social welfare is? So it was the need of the hour to direct the funds for the needy and required sectors of the Indian economy. So sectors such as the agriculture, small scale, and village industries were in need of funds for their expansion and further economic development. And the controlling of private monopolies is used to, prior to nationalization, many banks were controlled by private business houses and corporate families. So it was necessary to check these monopolies in order to ensure a smooth supply of credit to socially desirable sections. So, and the monetization issue, which was there in the to commercial banks accumulate deposits from the public, they are in a position to bring changes in the supply of money. Such an important power should not be in the private sector. It is the public sector that should have the control over money supply. And the integration issue. Central banks are established by the government for overall monetary control in the economy and is not aiming at profit. But commercial banks were started mainly to earn profit. Thus, there are contradicting objectives between central bank and commercial banks. And one more is, in this situation, the central bank may find it difficult to implement its policies when the commercial banks oppose them. So therefore, in the interest of coordination and cooperation between them, commercial banks were nationalized. And if you look into the pros of nationalization, that is the advantages of nationalization are expansion in rural areas, enhancement of trust among common masses in banking, as government-owned banks were unlikely to fail or fool them, and extension of banking services to common man, and creation and extension of sector specific loans and advances. The direct cash transfer of being implemented and shall be done on even a larger scale after the availability of basics, savings accounts, services to poorest of the poor, and the trust of the common masses has led to huge deposits in banks. So these funds fuel the growth of needful agriculture, services, industries, and others. And if you look into the cons of nationalization, so that is the lack of professional attitudes in banking professionals, in government-owned banks, as they do not benefit from the business of the bank, and corrupt in banks on officers' part due to their power to sanction advances and loans, which leads to NPAs. So the salaries and compensation of banking professionals is low. The old staff is untrained, and in new workings of the bank, this leads to poor services. And the government pressure from the top of implementing even loss-making schemes or full waiver of loans for electoral benefits is largely responsible for NPS. And government support and corruption on the top level means that big defaulters like Vijay Malviya got scot-free, and a government-owned bank lacks initiatives to make more profits, as the employees and management are unlikely to benefit from it. So these are the cons. And with this, I hope everyone could have understood why nationalization has been done in the banking sector after the independence, and the pros and cons of nationalization has been seen in this video. I hope everyone has understood very well. Thank you, everyone.